Hello, this is Rep Let Red State, and I am Brooke Speaks. We're talking about 40 acres and a mule. It has been a hot topic in the news. It has been a hot topic on chats, forums. It's just a hot topic. And there's people who ask me what my opinion is on 40 acres and a mule. And we're here to talk about it. So you're either for 40 acres and a mule, you are against it, or obviously in the middle, or you really don't know what your opinion is on it. So the people who are against it, obviously they have their reasons why they're against it. Some of it is very practical. Some of it is rooted behind racism. But regardless of why someone is either for or against it, there may be good reasons, there may be bad reasons, but we need to talk about which one makes the most sense, being for it or being against it. Obviously, 40 acres and a mule, it all rooted from slavery. Had slavery never existed, the 40 acres and a mule would never be a conversation, but slavery did exist. These were human beings that were forced to work for a bunch of lazy, disgusting, evil people, and nobody can change my mindset from that. These were not people who owed them anything. These were not people that did anything other than they were brought here from their home country and they were forced into ownership. And many of them were treated very poorly. Many of them were treated very cruelly, and there's never an excuse for that. Slavery is not new. It's not an American thing. And I would imagine that because America is who it is, because of the superpower that it is, or at least was, that is why American slavery is such a big deal, because slavery has been, it is world history. It is a fact of world reality, and it's not an African thing. It is a human condition thing. No time can I ever see why anybody would think it's okay to own people. And you hear the argument, well, the Africans were giving their own people to white people or whoever. I don't know about you. You couldn't beg me. You couldn't pay me to take a slave. Those arguments about who gave who, what, when, where, to me, that is racist in itself to even argue any validity as to why American slavery happened and in the form and fashion that it happened in, whether people were handed to you or whether people were stolen. It doesn't matter. The whole reality of it is slavery is disgusting and perverted and sick and demonic and wicked. And it is infinitely in every way bad. And it is narcissism at its absolute peak that someone would even feel that they should be able to own a person, can own a person, or anyone who justifies that. There is no justification. I do want to make that very clear, because the point that I'm going to make, I feel like it's necessary that I make that clear. Slavery is disgusting. It happened. We can't undo it. We have to now see where we go from here. 160 years, we have been hearing about this 40 acres and a mule. And I'm going to say right now, it's not going to happen. When it really was going to happen, it didn't happen. And at that time, that would have been different. At that time, I absolutely agree that there should have been some type of restitution, some type of reparation given to people who were held against their will, their children stolen, their families separated, and they were used like product. They were stock, and they were treated the lesser than livestock. They were beaten, raped. These were people who, they have consciousness, they have minds, they are able to think, and that's what happened to them. They were able to understand exactly what was happening to their children when they were taken, a married couple understanding what was happening when they were separated. It was a sick, and it was a cruel, and it was a disgusting time, and there should have absolutely been some type of payment for that. This was not just a 1 generation, 2 generation situation with slavery. It was happening for a long time. The problem with 40 acres and a mule today, though, is it doesn't make sense for today. And I'm going to tell you why. And I know a lot of people are not going to like that, especially me being a person of color. It doesn't sound right to them. But I'm going to explain it. My question is, who do you blame? Who takes the blame for slavery? Who takes the blame for people not getting what they deserved for working really hard? Some of them working till death. If you could take a DNA test right now and trace yourself back to a plantation, I would have no problem with that. I would have no problem with you getting reparations from a plantation that is still profiting. Their families are still profiting off of your loved ones. But the problem is with that, who do you trace that back to? Most people cannot trace that. So to make the taxpayers pay for that, it's really another tragedy, because what you're doing is other descendants of slaves are also going to be paying those taxes that then pay you. And how do we prove who is truly a descendant of a slave? There's a lot of Black people here who are not descendants of slaves. Some of them have not been here for more than a couple of generations. How do we know who really was a slave that was brought here? Not anywhere else, but here. How do you prove that? And that to me is a whole nother problem, because you can't. And once again, you're going to make people who are legal immigrants pay for that. You're going to make people who are descendants of slaves pay for that. People who are truly innocent pay for that. There's a lot of white people here. They have absolutely no connection to slave ownership in any way, shape, or form. There's this odd belief with a lot of Black people that all white people are connected to a plantation. And that's just ridiculous. And it's just not true. And a majority of white people had absolutely no connection to a plantation. So for you to feel like everybody owes me is sad. You are waiting for something that generations before you have been waiting on this, and it's just not going to happen. If it didn't happen when it was supposed to happen, it's not going to happen. I also want to talk about, if you were to get 40 acres and a mule, or the modern day equivalent, what are you going to do with it? And this is not saying that everybody who believes in reparations is unsuccessful and doesn't have anything, but it's just a commonplace. It's a commonality of people who are expecting and wanting this 40 acres and a mule. I question their financial stability and responsibility. Largely, we have to understand that anybody who would think that this is a good idea, they don't understand finances, they are not responsible with finances, and these are people that want to take without thinking of the damage and the irresponsibility of it all. So I would expect, if you are waiting for or expecting reparations, there's a few things that I can guess about you. One, you're probably a Democrat or a liberal. Two, you probably are or are from a lower socioeconomic class. You have no direction or lost direction in life. You probably don't have a lot of education. You probably don't have a great job. You probably are largely unsuccessful, and you really don't know how you're going to make it based off of your own abilities, and you're looking desperately for a way out. You may be someone who you've just been sitting around waiting for this, and you're not really doing anything else because you're hearing this in the news, you're hearing people talking about it, so you're really expecting it. This is not a dig. This is not to be hurtful. This is not to be mean in any way. This is really to point out the problematic roots of why we are keeping this alive. And you know, the sad thing about it, you know why you keep hearing about it in the news? You know why politicians keep bringing it up? Because it's the bone that they hold over you. It's starting with this bone that can be held in front of a starving person, kind of like holding a bone in front of a starving dog. Vote for me. It's the bone that they use to keep treating you like a dog, you know, that you're following their commands. And this is a very liberal thing. This is a very Democrat thing. And you know why? Because they need your votes. They need you to be in submission. They need you to listen to them. You go after people who are desperate and you hold that bone over them, and then they follow it. In order to be independent, though, you have to resist that urge to follow it. You have to resist that urge to just kind of wait there like a good little doggy, seeing what they're going to give you. And oftentimes you're waiting and you're being very patient and you get nothing. And you should be offended and you should want more and you should want better. Another problem is with, let's just say if this magically were to happen and somebody gave you the equivalent, let's say $1 million today, and you have very low education, you have never managed money well, and you have largely been unsuccessful and unmotivated, and now you get $1 million. What are you going to do with it? I know some of you are going to say, well, I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to buy a car, and I'm going to put some up. It sounds good. That's really not a lot of money. In reality, it's not, especially if you're not replenishing it. It's not a lot of money if you're just getting it in a lump sum. And that can go very quickly. And so then you're going to give this to people, and then it's going to be gone. They didn't think about the taxes they have to pay on their house. They didn't think about the upkeep that they have to pay on their house. So then we go right back to where we were. Just because you own a house, paid off, paid in cash. That doesn't mean you can't lose it. And that's what people don't get. You can still lose it. So you give people that, and then it's all gone in the first place. What I feel like would make sense is if we look back at slavery, there was a time where Black people were not allowed to read. They weren't allowed to be educated. That was a very wicked, evil, disgusting disease that was handed to Black people, and it spread throughout generations, because when you are taught that you cannot be educated, it really has a trickling effect. At least it can. If you come from a family that lacks education, it's very easy for that to trickle down. And so for me, I feel like how we have not raped and disassembled our economy, we could have actually had a solution that could have helped. And that would have been people, I don't know how you prove it again, but I guess now we're on this integrity system with a bunch of liars. All you have to do is state you're something and it's good enough. So I guess if people state that they're a slave descendant, even though a lot of people really don't know, but I guess just by simply stating you're Black. But anyways, the only reparation that I would think that would have made sense if we could have afforded it in our country, and we can't, would have been free education. Of course, it would have its limits and it would have guidelines, but free education. And that is because in Black America, there is a lot of people that are still a product of slavery. That kind of ignorance gets passed down. And if you are not someone that is willing to denounce that and stop embracing it, you're going to carry it and you're going to pass it on, and you're going to create all these generations that still are claiming to be slaves. And that does something to you. That does something to the psyche where you're just still a slave. So yeah, that would have been the only thing that would have made sense today. Because even though the taxpayers would have been paying for the education, largely it would have helped the taxpayers, because now we're getting more people that are willing to work. Not all of them are going to work. Some people will take advantage of even free education, but it would be more people that are able to hold jobs, able to have careers, people who otherwise can't or feel like they can't. This would be something that would be beneficial, but we can't afford it. We simply can't. We have given so much to illegal immigration. We've given so much to stupid policies that have nothing to do with the well-being of America as a whole. We find these little tiny sectors and we just cater to them to the point where we're spending just insane amounts of money, right? And so for things like this, where there's people who can really use the help, they're not getting it. Thank you, God, that there are a lot of Black people who are educated, a lot of Black people who do have good jobs, a lot of Black people whose families been walked away from this ignorance that has been passed down, this training that was forced on a lot of Black people, that we need white people, that we need the government, that we need to be taken care of. A lot of people walked away from that, but a lot of people have not. And that's the problem that we're having. And so I want to also talk to white people who are for this 40 acres and a mule. Let's talk about you, because you are probably a liberal, a Democrat, both. You might be someone who, it doesn't make sense. You don't think it makes sense, but it makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're a good person. And that's typically someone who's not Black. And actually, to be more specific, it's typically going to be a white liberal who feels that way, that it makes you a good person because you think that Black people should get this, when in reality, if you search deep within yourself, it makes no sense. You have a racist bone in you. And I'm going to tell you why. This white Jesus that you guys try to be, it's really disgusting. It is. Because I'm going to tell you about you. You are probably of a lower social class, a lower financial class. You probably are not a very wealthy person. You, if you are one of means, you probably come from a place where you want Black people to know their place. And you understand very well that by giving a little something, you kind of keep people in their place. You like this position of feeling like you are batting for Black people because it makes you look like a hero, because it makes you look like a good person. And in the reality of it, it's about you. It's not about Black people. You need to feel better about yourself because of your upbringing. You need to feel better about yourself because who you are today. So this little attitude or this little, oh, I just feel so sorry for Black people. They're just so poor and they can't make it without us. It's disgusting. Now, let me tell you what you really sound like. This is what you really sound like. I have to mess with you a little more because you guys are really out of control. So this is what you sound like.
I just feel so sorry for Black people. I mean, they're just so poor. I mean, they're slaves and they're still uneducated and they really need white people to fight for them. And I feel so guilty that I'm white. And I feel so guilty that I'm better. And I'm not the one saying I'm better. That's just the society. That's just society that says I'm better. That's not me. I hate that I'm white.
Do you see how disgusting that is? But that's what you're doing. And it's offensive and it's gross. These people don't need you to sit there and say they need you. They need you to just stop being a racist asshole. That's all they need you to do. Just stop. Just be a good person for real and stop saying you're a good person. Stop trying to act like you're this great person. If you're a manager and you see someone qualified and they're Black, be okay with giving them a job. If you see a Black person and they move next to you because they have a good damn job and they're working hard, be okay with that. Stop being the racist creep, the wolf in sheep's clothing, pretending to be a Black ally when in reality you know that is really just to keep yourself in this position where you feel like you're better than, because you guys don't want to see me. You guys can't stand to see Black people doing better than you because it knocks you off of your high horse and it makes your argument ineffective. It makes it null and void and it makes you look like the racist that you are. So stop. So anyways, so here's how you get your 40 acres and a mule, or the modern day equivalent. You get it by one, starting your own business. It's more than likely going to take a little time, but it's okay. You'll get your 40 acres and a mule a lot faster than waiting on forever. Or you get a good job, and you get a good job by either starting at entry level and working your way up, or you can go to school and get your degree in whatever field that you want to work in, and then you can start wherever they start you at. Get to the point in your life that you understand that a wrong has happened. It was evil. It was disgusting. There's no excuse for it, but you will now do better. You just give it to God. Get yourself together. Be better. They expect you to wait on this. They expect you to not move, not progress in your life so you can wait on this. It is just a way for the Democrats to earn your votes, to get you to do whatever they say, agree with all the wicked politics that they have in line because they just need you. You're a number. You're cattle to them. And don't get me wrong, that's politics all around, is that they need the votes. They need numbers. But what are you voting for, hoping that you're getting a free bowl of soup, that you're getting 40 acres and a mule? What are you voting for? What are you selling your soul for? Because you're saying, yeah, I don't agree with hardly anything they're saying, but they are going to give us 40 acres and a mule. And the Republicans aren't. You're willing to sell out everything you believe in. A lot of you are Christians too. It's disgusting. And I'm talking Christians and Muslims, actually. It's disgusting, the roots of who you are. And I question the roots of who you are, because if you're willing to vote for this wicked stuff just so that you can hopefully get 40 acres and a mule, that's a problem. Do better. Want better. Be better. If you want to hear more of what I have to say, please share, comment, like, and subscribe. Even if you hate everything that I believe and discuss, we welcome you too. I'll see you in the next video.